Yo, what up, YouTube? This your boy Curtis. I'm back to continue the review on the new Logic. I also wanted to do some reviews of some of the other creators' reactions, and so let's get right into it. Let's not waste no time. Get straight into it. Let's see here. All right, let's try to get the screen together. Then we're gonna get the stream together.
Transients and the drums. Yeah, that's totally good enough if you wanted to extract like some samples from a song. Here's the bass. Yeah, getting a little bit of crackling in there just from the drums and then the keys. I told you that we're running out of time. So that is the new stem splitter. If you just wanted to lift a vocal from a song or like sample some drums from a song, you could totally do that here. Or maybe you want to remaster one of your old projects and you just want to change up the mix a bit more, maybe in your old version of your band's song from 20 years ago, maybe the vocals are a little too low in the mix and you want to pop those out a bit in the remaster. This is a really easy way to do that and recover and restore and remaster those old recordings. Next up, let's talk about the new session players. So in addition to drummer, now you have a bass player and keyboard player, and these are AI assisted generative players that, just like with drummer, they've been modeled from performances of real life professional musicians. So let's start with drummer, and I'm going to go with the disco, indie disco kit here, just so I can keep the beat. One thing you'll notice is that the drummer interface is completely different. We're going to come back to that, so don't worry about that for now. But let's go ahead and add some bass to this. So I'll start by just creating a new track, go to bass player, and then you can choose the type of bass player you want to work with. So just like with drummer, where you had different styles of drummers, here we have different styles of bass players. Let's go with disco slap here. click create. And what it's going to do by default is it's going to create a chord progression in the key that you have selected. So we'll come back to the chord track in just a bit.
The key that's selected in the session. Then it'll make it based on that. Okay.
So the bass player is following the chord progression and the tempo here. And just like with drummer, you could double click on this and it opens up its own session player editor here for the bass. You can choose different bass players here. So maybe I want to go with pop rock instead. I can do that. It loads up a new bass player. Let's try one of these other disco presets. Here we go. Indie disco. Let's try that one out.
Indie disco.
So one of the big changes, especially just visually and where these things are located, is that the session player is going to be selected down here in the session player editor, not up here in the library like it was before. And then don't forget, you have your different presets you can pick from here. So I can try out a different pattern, the chord progression and the tempo here. And just like with drummer, you could double click on this and it opens up its own session player editor here for the bass. You can choose different bass players here. So maybe I want to go with pop rock instead. I can do that. It loads up a new bass player. Let's try one of these other disco presets. Here we go. Indie disco. Let's try that one out. So one of the big changes, especially just visually and where these things are located, is that the session player is going to be selected down here in the session player editor, not up here in the library like it was before. And then don't forget, you have your different presets you can pick from here. So I can try out a different pattern here.
Yeah, Facebook, that was a little confusing. I remember trying to mess with this a little bit earlier, and I was just like, where do you change session players at? This is weird.
And there are different controls in here too. The complexity and intensity are basically just the XY controls that were in drummer before. So complexity is how complex is the bass line, how many notes are there, and then the intensity is the dynamic. So maybe I want something a little simpler, but something with a pretty loud dynamic. You can choose from different preset patterns that will sort of show you the probability of a note appearing in any one of these locations. So if you think of each one of these dots is like a 16th note, this allows you to sort of change up the emphasis and the accents. Let's go back to that slap bass player. I think it was really cool. And there are a bunch of other controls down here, like adding fills, complexity, adding swing, setting your lowest note. Under details, there's even more options. And under manual, you can actually type in your own pattern. So I could do something like this maybe. And now the bass player is going to follow that pattern.
Oh, sweet. I don't seem like it right now, but okay.
So that's really cool. You can create your own rhythm still, or stick with the presets. Next up, let's talk about the session keyboard player. So I'll hit Option Command N to create a new track. Let's go with the keyboard player, and let's use the freely character. Just like with the drummers and bass players, you could choose a different sort of style, and then you have your different presets up here. Freely character. Freely character. Just like with the drummers and bass players, you could.
I just wanted to see where the presets are. Again.
Choose a different sort of style, and then you have your different presets up here. Okay, so maybe the keyboard player is a little too intense. Let's pull back the dynamics. Maybe make this a little more complex. Once again, you've got different pattern presets you can pick from, a bunch of different controls to customize the pattern. Under details, you can add more grace notes. You can do a push or pull feel. You can play with the dynamics, and you can humanize it. Under manual, once again, you can create your own pattern if you prefer. But one of the things that's really cool about the keyboard session player is you can turn on or off the left and right hand parts. And you can also adjust the voicing and style of the left and right hands. So let's say, for example, at the beginning here, maybe I wanted to start off with something that was sort of in a higher register. I could cut these out, go to the keyboard player, open this up. Let's take out the left hand. In the bass, let's open this up. Let's make the lowest note E2 instead of E1. Let's also pull down the intensity. I'll also pull down the intensity for the keyboards as well. And so now in these first 4 bars, I'm going to get sort of a higher and softer intensity. And then at bar 5, the bass is going to drop down an octave and the keyboard's going to throw in the left hand.
I follow you. That's real low though. I mean, it sounds like the volume thing. I mean,
Now, just like you can swap out the drum instrument on drummer tracks, you can swap out the bass instrument on bass session player tracks, as well as the piano on the keyboard session player. Now, the studio piano and studio bass instruments we're going to come back to in just a bit. But let's say instead of piano here, maybe I want the electric piano instead.
Ooh, that's what I was thinking we were able to do. Like, we'll be able to change the sound. You know, so that's awesome. That's real awesome. That's dope.
And if you want full control over your arrangements, remember, you can always select these regions, right-click or control-click, go down to Convert, and you can select Convert to MIDI region, so you can get into the piano roll editor and you can really fine-tune these parts on a note-by-note basis if you prefer. What powers all of these session players is the brand new chord tracker. I really shouldn't say brand new because I believe there was a chord track in earlier versions of Logic, but they brought it back, and what you can do is you can use this. It's a global track, so you just press G to open it up, to open up your global tracks, and you'll see the chord track here. If you don't see it, just right-click and then show the chord track. And by default, if you create a bass player or keyboard player track, this will automatically introduce a default chord progression in the key that you have set up here in the LCD display. But what I can do is I can double-click and I can select an individual chord, like maybe B minor 7 here. I've already got a B minor 7 over here, so this is a 1, 5, 4, 5 progression in E minor. Let's swap out this B chord for a 6 chord, which would be a C chord. So you just right-click or control-click, select Edit Chord, and then I can choose whatever chord I want here. So let's go C. We'll do a major triad, and then we'll add a 7th to this.
I love it.
And then I can just click out of there, and now the arrangement has been updated for both the bass and the keyboards.
That's different.
You know what? That's a C7. That's a dominant 7.
Yeah,
Let's make this a major 7.
Dominant 7, right? Okay.
And if you need some help creating chord progressions and you just want to start with a different progression, you can right-click or control-click and choose some options for a chord progression. So here's a 1, 3, 6, 7 progression. Maybe there's too many triads. Let's juice it up a bit with some extended harmonies. Let's make this C major triad a C major 7. Let's make this D major triad. Let's make this C major.
I promise I won't pause a lot. I'm just wanting to get a good look at this right here. So then, that's dope. So then, so 7th chords, 9th chords, 11th chords, 13th chords, major or flat. It gives you the optionality to do so and change the scales, as well as the bass note. You can say bass notes or none, so that way if you wanted to play a bass or if you wanted to actually just use the session bass player, that's dope. So that way you got that flexibility. Nice. They kind of thought about some things.
Triad, a C
Okay.
major 7.
Okay.
Let's make this D
Okay.
major triad a D6. And if using all whole note chords is a little boring, you can trim these up to change up their rhythm, and you can even add in new chords by right-clicking or control-clicking and selecting Create Chord to add a new chord anywhere in your arrangement. And then once again, you can trim this, you can move it, so you have full control over the position of your chords as well.
So earlier I was messing around with this, and I thought to myself, man, like this piano thing is super static. Like you can't do anything really to change it. I was not privy, or basically I was slow. I didn't know you could do all of that. So that's awesome. So
In
that's
addition to our 2 new session players, Drummer has also received some significant updates. Mainly, it's been completely redesigned with a new user interface. So instead of selecting your drummers in the library over here like you usually would, you're now going to select your drummers down here. So you just click here. You can choose what drummer you want to load up from here. And you can also choose different drummer types. So you can choose between acoustic, electronic, percussionists, and you can even switch over to the bass player and keyboard player here as well. And then all of your presets are going to be loaded up here in this top menu. Just like with the old version of Drummer, you have a complexity and intensity option. Instead of an XY pad, it's now just 2 separate sliders. And just like with the bass and keyboard players, you can choose custom rhythmic patterns. But with Drummer, they take it a step further by separating the kick and snare from the hi-hats, ride cymbal, or toms. So the kick and snare pattern, you can just click here and you'll see there are different preset kick and snare patterns. So this first one's just sort of a 4 on the floor. But I could also change this up to a different pattern. Or if I want to completely take out the snare, I can do that too. Now with this upper pattern, you can choose between a hi-hat pattern, or if you prefer a ride cymbal led pattern, you can click the ride cymbal and choose a custom pattern for it as well.
This is cool. Let's get
Powers Drummer. All of the drum kit designer samples have been completely remixed. But in addition to that, each kit piece in Drum Machine Designer can be swapped out for any other kit.
Dang! Dang! They did not have that many different drums before. They had like 3. And both of them, and 2 of the 3 had Logic on it. Dang. That's an upgrade. That's an upgrade.
Piece available in Drum Kit Designer. So previously, you would click on the kick or the snare or the toms, and you would just get 3 different options to pick from for each kit.
3.
Now you can swap out any kit piece for any drum kit. So instead of the 4 on the floor kick, maybe I want the Liverpool kick. And instead of 4 on the floor snare, maybe I want the Liverpool snare.
Oh, hold on! Did I see that? Manchester?
Or the Manchester snare. You can swap out the toms. And what's really awesome is you can even swap out the cymbals. So if you select the crash cymbals, you can choose different types of crash cymbals. Select the ride cymbal. You can customize the ride as well. And you can even do this with the hi-hat as well. So now I've fully customized my kit. driving the session bass player and
Got
session
feel.
keyboard player are the brand new studio bass and studio piano instruments. Studio bass introduces 5 new electric basses and 1 acoustic upright bass.
Wow.
So depending on what session bass player you
Wow.
load up, you'll get a different type of studio bass preset. But these plugins don't have to be used exclusively with the session players. You can load up the instrument on any software instrument as well. Now, right now I'm using the 60s bass, which is a Hofner style bass.
Come on. What? You hear that?
Classic
What?
is a Fender P bass.
Sounds so good. That sounds so good. Like it's like warm. It's like that bass sounds so warm and so just, you know, true to, you know, it's just wild.
Which is a Hofner style bass.
Some wildest old AI. Like, you feel that? It's got attitude.
Classic is
It's got some of this in it. See? It's got some of this in it.
a Fender P bass.
What?
Rock is a Rickenbacker style
Easy
bass.
too. Okay. What? This is crazy.
Session is what looks like some sort of a Fender jazz bass.
I mean, there's so many different sounds. It's like all of these different options, like to have on a fly like this. Like you would need to have your, you would need to know what you want. Like you had to be very. Now I gotta get better at this. You had to be very. What's the word I'm looking for? You have to be able to decide what you want quickly. Not even quickly, but you have to be exposed. That's the word I'm looking for. You have to be exposed to a good amount of music in order to decide what you want to hear. Because there's so many like very like nuanced changes, right? It's not like a drastic sound like, oh, and like where you can quickly identify, oh, this is a jazz bass. I will use this for jazz. And matter of fact, it's not even, the naming convention isn't even as blunt about it. It's more, again, you gotta have an ear to know what you want to hear in your entire ensemble and your entire piece of music, and that's a element of, again, like just rich music knowledge and to hear what it is that you want. I love to get you guys in the comments below to tell me how you guys would use this bass session player, how you guys would use the piano drum session players, and the other ones as well too. I'd love to get you guys' feedback on that. Let me get back to that kind of smoothly.
And modern is some sort of an Ernie Ball Music Man Stingray bass.
See, that's what I'm saying. This one's a little bit deeper in tonality than the other one was, than the other two were. So, like I said, you really got to get your musicality on to really hear what it is that, not only hear, but to be able to respond to all of these options that Logic is now giving us. It's giving us a lot of options. So let's get back to it. Thank y'all for showing up. Hey, comment below if there's any particular piece within Logic that you guys are curious about, so we can get right to
it. Each bass's tone can be fully customized using the main and details tabs, and you'll notice that the controls change from instrument to instrument. And in addition to these great electric basses, there's also a new American upright
This
acoustic
is
bass.
nice. What? See, that's what I was just saying. That name isn't strictly saying jazz. But
in addition to studio bass, there's also a brand new studio piano instrument. Logic has always had really great sampled piano instruments, but this takes that to another level. This is a completely new set of 4 pianos. You have the Studio Grand 1 mics. This is more of a simple, more direct sounding grand piano.
That's just, wow, that's a rich sound. And it's
You have
AI
Studio
playing.
Grand, which is a multi-mic'd piano, so you can actually control the volume of the mono mic and 2 stereo mics individually.
What? This is just
You have
update
a
11.
Concert Grand.
This is just going from 10 to 11. Like, I like that concert, man. That's very gentle.
And lastly, a vintage upright. This one also has different miking positions as well.
Why? I mean, it's just upright, so I mean it's cool, but I just don't really see. Well, not I can hear how the reverbs of mic here, mic there, mic there.
And those little clicks and pops in there you're hearing, that's intentional pedal noise and key noise that you can pull down if you want to hear less of it, or pull up for that added realism. All right, next up is the new Chroma Glow audio effects plugin.
What is this?
This is an AI-powered saturation and distortion plugin. This is great for adding saturation to individual tracks, buses, or use it to saturate your masters.
Like
now, in Chroma Glow, there are 5 models you can pick from: retro tube, modern tube, magnetic, which is like tape, squeeze, and analog preamp. There's also 2 styles for each model. Additionally, you can bypass frequencies below a certain range, and if you turn it off, you're going to be affecting the full frequency spectrum. And there's even a mixed blend, so you can dial up the drive to 100% and then just blend in the amount of saturation you want. And it also includes a low cut and high cut filter. So let's give this a shot on some keyboards in the intro of my track here.
Oh, that's interesting. Man, what in the world? And this track is nice too. It's like, I don't even know.
Okay, so I think I like the magnetic model the best. I'm going to pull the drive up quite a bit, but I'm going to pull the mixed blend down. So we're blending a little bit of the original signal, which sounds like this.
Compressor or nothing like that. It's like a blend of multiple plugins.
It's just a really boring electric piano.
It's crazy.
And then when we add in a bit of this drive and saturation.
Yo, I'm real curious to see how you guys will use this plugin on your next project, or even just like how you hear it in your head. Like, just drop some ideas.
This gives this instrument quite a bit of new character. And like I said before, you can also try using this on your masters. So here I've got it loaded up on the stereo output. I'm going to load up the magnetic model, and this time I'm going to bypass the lower frequency so that the saturation is only being applied to the top end.
Man, it's like brighten up his old mix. He's using a lot of the AI in this track too.
So that's just adding that little bit of saturation and lift I need to really make the track pop. Next up, let's talk about the new real-time bounce-in-place feature. This one's going to be really helpful if you use external hardware synthesizers or if you use the I/O plugin like I do to route tracks over to external mixing hardware. So right now I'm using the I/O plugin through channels 7 and 8 on my audio interface to just give this drum track a bit of a lift using my Neve Portico 2 master bus processor.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Now,
A little bit
prior
of
to
realism.
Logic 11, you would have to create a new audio track and then sort of bust this down and print that audio in place. Logic 11 now supports real-time bounce in place. So if you select the regions that you want to bounce in place, press Control B to bring up your bounce regions in place dialog and click OK.
Turn that whole bad boy into a straight audio track, all one. Cohesive.
What this will do is it'll do a real-time bounce in place of that selection. Now, when doing this, it automatically dims the level, but this is a huge time saver, again, if you use external hardware synths or mixing hardware like me, because you want to be able to print these things in place, render them in place, so that you can use that piece of hardware, again, for another track. And if you don't have the external instrument or I/O plugin on the track, the bounce in place function will just work as normal and do an offline bounce instead. So it automatically detects whether you need a real-time bounce or not.
Interesting. That's interesting. And I'm just not learning that with hardware.
Okay, so after
external
the
that
bounce
you need
in
that.
place is complete, you can see it's
Real
muted the original regions. And down here you can see I have a stereo audio file with that drum part printed through my Portico. Okay, so the very last update is kind of a minor one, but if you use the marquee tool
Yes.
for audio editing, this one's a nice one to know, especially if you do a lot of sort of tabbing to transients and precise transient or drum editing. In Logic 11, they've created 8 new key commands for use with the marquee tool to adjust its position and placement. So if you go up to Logic Pro Key Commands, Edit Assignments, and you search up marquee, you'll notice there are 4 new key commands here and 4 new key commands here for the marquee tool. So these are Option up and down, Option right and left, Shift Option up and down, and Shift Option right and left. So what do these do? Okay. So if you use the marquee tool and you just click somewhere with it, you can press the right and left arrow keys to sort of tap into Logic's tab to transients feature. And if you hold shift while doing this, you can make a selection. Now, this is nothing new. This has been around for a while, so that's not the new feature. What is new is the ability to shift the selection up or down. So if you hold Option and press up, this will shift the marquee selection up. If I press down, it'll shift it down. But you can't go any lower than where your selection was. Well, there's another key command for that. If you press Shift Option and press down, you can move your selection down, press it up, and you can move it up. So Option to go up, Shift Option to go down. Now, an additional feature is the ability to shift the left or right position of the marquee selection by the nudge value. So your nudge value can be shown up here. If you show your toolbar, you can set your nudge value. Usually it's set to 1 tick. So if you make a marquee selection and then press Option left or right, you'll see that this adjusts the position of the beginning of the marquee selection by the nudge value. If I set this to a larger value, like 10 milliseconds, you see it jumps, a bit quicker. On the back end, if you press Shift Option and then the right or left arrow keys, this will nudge the position of the right side of the marquee selection. So again, very minor update, but worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Okay, so those...
I mean, if I'm honest, like, I don't use the marquee tool like that. It's cool, but it doesn't necessarily like give me like the flexibility that I look for all the time. Like especially because when I dial down into the audio file, I really need to see what I'm looking at, right? I need to see like the like he talked about transients, but I didn't see him lift any transients. It was just more tab over just to get like a clean look, which is cool. But I like to get that full view of that for sure. So, and I didn't see that in that. So with that being said, I would like to add another. Let's see, I may or may not have the time to do this now, but yeah. Now, at the end of the day, is this better than Pro Tools? You gotta really like ask yourself: is this better than Pro Tools? Pro Tools is Pro Tools. I mean, get it? It's Pro Tools, right? Logic is for it's definitely not for beginners. Like it's not even only for pros. Because it has that ability to turn off those advanced features. That way, if you're just starting with Logic, you can use those same features that are in GarageBand and kind of ignore some of those higher level options that the full blown Logic Pro would give you. Um, However, when you want to open and get those advanced settings, then you can do that. And then you'll be rocking in more of a Pro Tools type of world. Pro Tools has just been around for so long. It's the industry standard. It has the cachet of a BMW as a higher end performance um, you know digital workstation. And I mean, it was one of the first digital workstations to actually hit the scene. And they've had a lot of history. They weren't always Pro Tools, and but they've been the same company for years and years. And so um, I just think that Logic, being that it's an Apple product, it has such a easy transition, and because Apple is very very prominent in the industry, and they have a lot of money behind what they produce, they're able to give us a very very powerful product in a package that's professional and that stands alone in the industry. So you don't have to have Pro Tools. You don't have to have Logic Pro. You can have either one and still make great music. I will say that if you are doing recording, like vocal performance and stuff like that, and you have somebody doing your edits, the tool in Pro Tools, I forget what it's called, the custom tool or the it's basically three tools in one, and it is freaking phenomenal. I love that tool because then you don't have to keep Command T in between different tools in order to do your edits like you do in Logic. Um, so with that being said, I think that's the only difference. And also too with Logic, it's just very very user friendly. Like it just flows with how you think. Versus with Pro Tools, you gotta think about it like a pro, like if like a surgeon, you gotta go into there with some prior knowledge. Versus with Logic, you can kind of just feel your way around it and figure it out pretty easily, start to finish. So that's all I got for y'all this evening. Thank y'all for watching. As always, hit the like button if you like this content. Definitely subscribe if you like this content. Get into the comments. Let me know what y'all want to see next. I'm here to help you guys and also to share my journey with you guys here on Vocaltopia. But I'll definitely discuss some other things as far as in the music industry. I'll be just giving you all my knowledge that I've gained here going to Berkeley and my years just as a musician, as a singer, as a producer. And I'll have some guests come through that'll help me also too to build out the content. So I have some rappers in the group, I have some singers in the group, I have some other producers, and also two film directors, photographers, videographers. They'll all be joining me on streams and providing their insights and knowledge to the community. And so I look forward to the awesome times in the future soon to come. All right. Again, y'all have a blessed one. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, chat. Thank you, everybody that's coming on live. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.